Okay, so some of them get a little bit, yeah, they get a little bit sticky there. Okay, try that. There we go. Good. Okay, Robbie. Now, do you think you're high or low?
High?
Yeah, you're actually a little bit on the higher side. So you went a little past it, so you get to go the other way. There it is, yeah. It's like such a feeling of satisfaction when you reach it. It's like,
Oh boy, Robbie, finish up.
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Very good. Okay, Briggs. Okay, are you high or low? You're lower, right. So we got to tighten it. It's just like clear to me. Almost. Yeah, there we go. Good. Now, of course, that's one out of 4 strings, right? Getting that first string is usually the hardest because it's just matching 2 different sounds. I mean, my instrument it is a violin, yes, but it's going to sound slightly different. Yes, I'm playing with the bow. You happen to be plucking in this one, and you can do it with the bow, obviously. We're just doing it mostly because I want to hear, or I want you to be able to hear the reference note more so than yours. I mean, when people tune in the orchestra, they get the full symphony orchestra, you get the A from the oboe, and they have to keep that sound in their head. And even while everyone else is tuning and getting all their strings together, and and then the trumpet players go warm up on something else, and throw everybody off. So all of these things are happening at the same time. So it's all basically a mental game where that's concerned. And if you can match the pitch like that, again, you just ask yourself, am I higher or lower than what I hear? And if you're not sure, pick one direction, right? Because you've got a 50-50 chance, as I said before. If as you're doing it doesn't sound, it just doesn't feel like I'm getting it closer and closer. Well, maybe you're getting it further and further away and go the other direction. You lost a little time, but you haven't heard anything, right, by doing that. Now, here's where it gets into more serious stuff, however, where we have to turn pegs is a bit more of an issue. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. So with the pegs, and this is usually where things go, where they get really, really nerve-wracking, because we don't want to break them if we don't have to, the strings if we don't have to, and it's they don't seem to be as nice and forgiving sometimes as the fine tuners are. On a smaller instrument, especially if you're not yet on a fuller size instrument, especially for violin and viola, cellos tend to use the fine tuners more in general. But the fine tuners are usually enough to do most of the work. But as I say, every so often those pegs slip and we have issues. So here is where we really have to get a feel for how these things turn. So I want to say a little bit about how the pegs are very different than the fine tuners. They do the same job, but they do it in a different way. The fine tuners are a screw, right? Righty, tighty, lefty, loosey. These are not screws. These are what we call taper fit, which means that they're small on one side and they're big on the other, and they're just jammed in there tight enough to be held by the wood around them, which means that that's why when it gets cold and that wood around it, opens up a little bit. That's why they go all floppy. The strings go all floppy because suddenly they go loose on you. So there is no screw in there. There are some brands of pegs. They're not as common, but there are some brands where there is kind of a mechanism in there, but it's not very, as I said, it's not very common. Most of the time you're dealing with ones that they're just jammed in here. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, because they're not screws, it's not righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You have to think about what is rolling the string tighter and what's unrolling it looser. So if you imagine, we have these strings here. If I am trying to roll any string tighter, I'm rolling it up this way. So that means that on one side, this is tighter. On the other side, this is tighter. That this might be righty-tighty, but this is not righty-tighty. This is lefty-tighty. So I can't use those little helpful reminders. So I think about pulling the string to make it tighter or relaxing it to make it lower. And that's the first thing I have to think about. The second thing is I also have to think about pushing it in a little bit as I'm turning it, if I'm trying to tighten it. Sometimes I actually have to loosen it first just to give myself some room to kind of move up. But most of the time I can just do like a little nudge, a little nudge. Now I purposely made this instrument way out of tune. Wasn't nearly as out of tune as I was hoping it would be. Better job at untuning. There we go. There's it. That's a good practicing session right there. Okay, so pluck your E string. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so I need to get that string to be where Jalea's string is, because she's playing on it today, and I'm sure it's fairly close to being in tune. This is where I really, really listen for how it changes as I turn it. So in this case, I follow the string up to see what peg it's wrapped around. And as they wrap around, there's a little tiny hole in the peg that it was sort of fed through like the eye of a needle. And we're going to see that when we take a string off and put it back on. So E string is usually, and for cello or viola, it's your A string. Whatever your highest string is usually, as you're looking at it, the bottom right, and then the next highest, and then the next highest, and then the lowest. Kind of works that way. But if you follow the line up, you can usually see which one it's going to be. So I've got to get mine up to where, play yours again, Jalea? Okay. So this is where I really like to have a nice long sound. Already I've got it up higher. I took a small, very small turn. If I were thinking about the dial of a clock, I might have turned it about 5 minutes in there. Just a little at a time. Let me hear it again. Okay. So now I'm in the ballpark. And I could have done it, if I was feeling brave and with enough experience. I mean, I can do it pretty much in one shot. But if I just do a little at a time, little at a time, little at a time, I can usually go up in steps. And I listen for it just going up enough where it changes. And that's certainly better than trying to save time by really cranking it hard and then snap. Yes?
Wouldn't it mostly be all tight up because you can't really loosen it? You can't really tighten it anymore?
Well, here's the thing. You mean like when it reaches the top? No, you can keep turning and turning and turning. You can turn these until the string will break. Yeah, we don't want to do that, right? So find that point, then just don't do it, right? No, that's not good advice. Yeah, so we want to listen for where that is. Now, of course, every single string is the same length, right? From here to here, it has to be, because it's all in the same instrument. They're all different thicknesses to make them have the different sounds. So they're all very specifically set up to do a certain note very, very well. I mean, they can do a range of them, but they're, this is definitely set up best for an E string. This is definitely best set up for an A string. If this were a viola, that string would be over here, right? And it would be different thickness. So we can't substitute. We can't say, oh, I'm gonna make this one the E string instead, or something like that. It will break if I try to overturn it. Okay, so here's feeling adventurous.
Nope.
Oh, good. I'm glad you are. Okay, I'm gonna pretend the answer was yes. We're gonna take our E. Well, actually, we don't have strings on violas and cellos. We're gonna take our D string because we just did the A string. Let's not mess with that. Okay, and I want you to trace it up until you find the peg it's around. From violin, it's here. Viola and cello, it's here. So viola, cello would be this top one here. Violin, it would be this one. Yes?
Why is it the highest note if it's not the highest string?
Why is it the highest what?
Why is it like the highest up?
So it's the easier